DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to occur. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show, one daily masterclass. Yes, you heard me, daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, how to stand up to the woke mob. How do you stand up to the woke mob that is coming for you right now every single day, unless you're a part of the woke mob. Now, if you're listening to this show and you are a part of the woke mob, I want to give you a round of applause, because this show is not for woke people. Okay, this show is not for the woke. So I appreciate you for being willing to listen to something that may go against many of the things that you are believing in and buying into. So no, I commend you for that. Now, I just gave you a couple days ago a race conversation survival guide for non-woke individuals. Today, I'm just going to tell you how to stand up to the woke mob, period. This one is more about your just emotional disposition and your mindset than it is about, you know, what you specifically need to say or something you specifically need to do. A couple days ago, that was more tactical. This one's more strategic. Maybe I should have did this one first, but what's done is done. And in episode 1819, several weeks ago, I told you why I am not woke. And in episode number 1595, about a year ago, you can go listen to this one. The links are all down below in the show notes. I shared with you a response that I gave to a woke messenger who sent me a direct message on Instagram. So after I had said some things where I attacked wokeness, or maybe I attacked BLM, or maybe I attacked some other form of bullshit that's being thrown around these days, and I'm on the record with all this stuff just in case you want to know where I stand. I did a whole episode where I shared a response that I gave to somebody who sent me some woke shit in my DM. So all that being said, today I'm gonna tell you how to stand up to the woke mob. And I want you to understand something about the woke mob. If you don't know what the woke mob is, then I would suggest you listen to episode number 1819 so you get an understanding of what wokeness is. I think everybody has heard of it. Maybe you don't have a direct definition of what it means. Listen to episode 1819 so you understand it, and you understand why your host is not in the woke category. And the thing that I want you to understand about the woke mob, actually, before I do that, let me remind you I got a text line where I want you to text me. Tell me what you got from this episode, whether you hated everything that I said, whether you hate something specifically that I said, whether you hate me personally because of what I said, whether you love something I said, you love me personally because of what I said, or you have a question, or you just want to get my daily motivation text for any reason whatsoever. Send me a text. 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894 is that number to text me anytime during this episode or any other point. You'll get my daily motivation text no matter what reason you text me. Now, anyway, understand something about the woke mob. Now, you got to understand something about mobs, period. It has nothing to do with wokeness. Any mob is that people join a mob and they start doing and saying things that they would not do or say if they were alone. If they were not part of a mob. A mob, the very essence of a mob is that people feel shielded by the size of the group. The volume of people that are in the mob, and it doesn't have to be 1,000 people. A mob could be 10 people. It could be 1 million. Is the sheer numbers of the mob is what gives people the cover to feel comfortable enough to do some crazy shit that they would not do if they were by themselves and naked out here on their own and having to be held accountable for their actions. I've been on social media just looking at, like, Twitter, for example, is a platform that I use as my news source. And I follow people on all sides of aisles and just see what's being said, look at the trending topics, just see what people are talking about. And in the city of Portland, Oregon, over the last year plus, it's been going on for more than a year, there's this mob rioting and violence and all kinds of stuff going on in Portland for the last year plus that the mainstream media just doesn't talk about at all. They don't even mention it. And I was talking to my friend Charlene, who's she's going to be doing the event management for the Work on Your Game Live conference happening this August. And she was asking me, because we were talking about some Instagram Live conversations we were going to be having, which may already be happening by the time you're listening to this. And she was just asking me, well, Dre, what are some topics we could talk about? And she was throwing out some ideas. She was like, well, what about the stuff that's going on in Portland? And I said to her, well, nobody cares because there's a bunch of white people beating each other up. That doesn't rate these days. It has to have a black person involved to get the news' attention. And it was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it was at the same time, it's serious. I mean, y'all watch the news. Y'all have the internet. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But the thing is that those people up there in Portland is mostly white people. They are up there breaking buildings up, breaking glass, setting stuff on fire, attacking the cops, blocking streets, attacking anyone who doesn't seem to fit with their ideology. How they know, I don't know, but anyone who doesn't fit. And here's some interesting things you can notice about them, because I see the videos. There are people who post clips and videos of what these people are doing every single day. And it's like every day for the last year plus. And they have rallies and demonstrations. I'm like, man, where do these people go to work? What do they do? Why are they so angry? What are they mad about? And they're attacking each other. So it's not like they're going after black people. It's they're going after other white people and just breaking up buildings. I'm like, well, what's the angle? What's the point in all of this? But the thing is, when you look at the videos and you see these people, they always covered up. They have their faces covered. They wear masks. They wear shields. And it's not because they're trying to protect themselves from COVID. It's because they don't want to be seen. And if they were to be seen, then that means people will know who they are, then they would be held accountable. And that's the last thing that people want when they're part of a mob. All right, they just join into the energy of the mob, and they get the energy and the confidence and the courage to do and say things, as I said, that they otherwise wouldn't do if they were being held accountable and they had to stand on all of their own actions. I want you to keep that in mind when you just think about mobs, period. And now we're going to talk specifically about the woke mob. And before we do that, I'll tell you a quick little story. I touched on this in yesterday's episode, but I'll tell it again. I was sitting on a flight, a Delta flight. This flight was flying from Amsterdam, Netherlands to Atlanta, Georgia. And this flight attendant, who I had previously not noticed her, we had already been halfway through the flight. It's like a 10-hour flight, so we got 5 hours in. I'm awake the entire flight. I talked about this on the episode where I talked about travel tips. I don't really sleep on planes. It's not comfortable for me. And I like using that time to just get some work done, whether it's reading, writing, whatever. I bought the on-flight Wi-Fi on the flight. It's like $21. And I had both window shades open because I had access to 2 window shades. And there was nobody even sitting next to me. The seat next to me was empty. And there was only 2 people in that little section, 2 seats in that section. This flight attendant comes through and she walks past me. She asked me if I could lower the shades at least halfway. And I asked her why, and she was saying because there are people sleeping on the plane. There were a lot of people sleeping on the plane. A 10-hour flight, people are going to fall asleep, even though the flight was in the middle of the day. It left the Netherlands at like 2 o'clock and it landed in Atlanta at like 5 o'clock because with the time change. So you're on a plane for 10 hours, but only 3 hours pass. But anyway, when she first asked, I did lower the shades halfway just to see how it felt. But mind you, I'm sitting there on my laptop working. I'm wide awake and it's the middle of the damn day. So for all these reasons, after like 2 minutes of having the shades down, I decided I didn't like the shades down. So I put the shades back up. Now I knew this flight attendant was going to come back past me at some point and she was going to ask about that or say something. So I was already ready for her to come back. She ends up coming back and she asked the same question again as if the first question never happened. She didn't say, hey, I thought I asked you to do that. She didn't say that. She just asked if I could lower them again. I said, I like the shades being up. And she said, and she responded by saying, well, other people are sleeping on the plane. And as I talked to you about yesterday, the thing that I was thinking in my mind, it didn't come to this and I didn't end up needing to say it. And I'll explain to you why as we get into our points today was, bitch, don't you see that I'm wide awake and you see that it's daytime. So if other people are sleeping in the daytime, it ain't my responsibility to make it dark for them. Shit, it's daytime. I don't need to close the shade because another person is sleeping, even if it's somebody sitting right next to me sleeping. How the fuck is that my business? And I pay for a window seat. And when you pay for a window seat, you had the option of having the shade up or putting the shade down. And since I paid for the damn window seat, the window is going to be how I want it to be. Now, again, these are just all things that I was thinking in my mind. I did not say these out loud, even though I had every right to, and I would have, but I didn't need to. It didn't come to that. I calmly explained to her that I like the shades being up. And she responded by saying, well, other people are asleep, and we usually ask people to put the shades down when people are sleeping. And I said to her, well, listen, I paid for a window seat, and I want the shades up. And then she basically said the same thing a third time that other people are sleeping. And, they like to ask people to put the shades down. And I said to her, we are halfway through. We've been on the flight for 5 hours. You're the first person to say something. And at that point, and this is a white woman, and I'm mentioning that she was white, just to give you an idea, and this has nothing to do with I don't think it had anything to do with race. I doubt that it did. I mentioned that she was white because I could kind of see the changing expressions on her face as she realized that I wasn't going to do what she wanted me to do. And her face started to turn a little bit red. And then she basically walked off at that point, and she didn't bring up the windows again for the rest of the flight. And the windows stayed open the entire time. I'm telling you that little anecdote to tell you this. When you're dealing with the woke mob, you need to do the same things that I did in dealing with this one woman. This wasn't a mob. This was just one person. Now, all the other flight attendants on this flight, this is one of those big planes with like 3 columns of seats, and there's a couple hundred people on this plane. So it's a very big plane. Several flight attendants. It had to be maybe 10 flight attendants on this plane. This woman was the only person who ever said anything about the windows the entire flight. But anyway, the whole point that I'm giving you that to help you understand. When the woke mob comes against you, and I'm going to detail all of this in our points, do not lose your presence of mind. Remain calm. State whatever it is that you need to state. Stand your ground and be willing to defend yourself. Those are the things you need to understand about dealing with any types of mobs of people. And if you do not have the balls to do this, then the mob will overrun you. I'm telling you that right now, but let me get into my points so you understand this even better. And I'll tell you to listen to episode number 1796, which will also be linked down below in the show notes. The topic of episode 1796, if you did not hear it, is get some balls. If you didn't hear that episode, I would suggest you go listen. Let's get into our points. Number 1, topic once again is how to stand up to the woke mob. Number 1, understand something. Capitulation to a mob will not earn you peace, honor, nor respect. Let me say that one more time. Capitulating to a mob will not earn you peace, honor, nor respect. When a mob accuses you of some bullshit and you apologize to the mob for the bullshit that they accuse you of that you know you didn't even do, but you apologize anyway, that ain't changing anything. All right, they will not relax because you apologize to them. They will now feel, since you apologize, that their condemnation of you that was false from the beginning is now justified, and they have properly now, quote, set you straight, close quote, even though what you apologize for you didn't even do. I mean, I've mentioned this a couple times here. The guy that was on Jeopardy, he won the first time he was on Jeopardy, he won, and he held up 1 finger to represent, I won the show 1 time. And when he won the second time, 2 fingers. He won the third time, he held up 3 fingers. And all of a sudden, the internet got on fire, at least the woke section of the internet got on fire because they claimed that this man was holding up a white supremacy signal by holding up 3 fingers. And even though, and he wrote like on Facebook or wherever he wrote this, that wasn't the intention. It wasn't the white supremacy symbol. It was just signifying that I won the show 3 times. He still said, I apologize to anyone who may have been offended by what I posted. He should not have did that. He shouldn't have apologized because he capitulated to the mob by offering that 1 sentence of apology. And guess what? The mob didn't say, oh, we're sorry about that, or now we're cool. They didn't do that. They now felt justified for coming at him in the first place with their bullshit because he was willing to go along with the fact that they tried to come at him for something that he didn't even do. Do not capitulate to the mob. All right, this requires you having some fucking balls, like I talked about in the episode that I just referred to. Now, let me get that number again. Episode 1796. Do not capitulate to bullshit. If someone accuses you of some bullshit or asks you to do something that you don't want to do, going along with it will not make them respect you. It will not make them calm down. It will not make them leave you alone. It's just going to further encourage them to keep up with the bullshit. I realize, understand, that a lot of this discussion that we talked about here, wokeness, Black Lives Matter, general victimhood, none of this is about, this is the key insight that I've realized as I've listened to more people talk about this. I go on YouTube and I've listened to people debate about this. I read articles about it from all sides of it. Here's the key insight that I've gotten. Wokeness, Black Lives Matter, general victimhood, all of this stuff, no matter where you stand on it, especially people who are advocates of these things, it's not about logic. It's not about facts. And it's not about critical thinking for these folks. And I'm not even saying that as a condemnation of them. This is what I realize that it's really about for them. For people who are into these things, it's like a religion. And here's the thing about religion. I don't claim any particular religion, but if any of you do, hopefully you're enough of a critical thinker to accept what I'm about to tell you. That when you are the member of a religion and you buy into that religion, a lot of it is based on your deep belief of what you are told, of the story of that religion. Every religion is a story. Hopefully everyone can accept that. It's your deep belief of that story that matters more than any logical facts that need to stand up to scrutiny. See, you don't need to logically prove the story of a religion for you to be a devout member of that religion. It's the fact that you believe the story that makes you a member of that religion. It's not, or I can logically prove these things about Jesus or about God or about how my particular religion was formed. It's not about that. It's about your belief. And that's fine. I have no problem with anyone claiming any religion, however you feel about your religion. But wokeness and general victimhood and even the Black Lives Matter movement, these things are religions to these people, meaning that it's more about their beliefs of whatever, whatever founding ideas that they think they're standing on is more about their belief of it than their ability to logically prove it or logically defend anything that gets said. So when someone like me gets on a microphone or gets on a camera and I start logically picking apart anti-racism, or I pick apart wokeness, or I pick apart Black Lives Matter, to those people, it doesn't really fucking matter, because it's more about their belief than it is about their proving. See, when I come with logic, what they're going on is their emotion. They're going on a belief, or I'm coming with some, I'm just looking at it strategically. I'm looking at it more objectively. So we're speaking two different languages, even though we're talking about the same thing. Two movies on the same screen. Now, understanding this helps you understand and accept the fact that these people are going to exist, and it may be a while before they go away. So understanding that these people are buying into their beliefs. And if you're any part of any religion, part of your belonging, again, is your choice to believe the story of that religion. I mean, that's how religion works. I mean, why are there so many different religions if everybody believes that there's some type of higher being? Every religion, as far as I've noticed, I'm no expert on religion, but every religion that I've noticed, every one of them believes that there is some form of higher being. They may give it a different name. They may think it comes from a different place. They may think it has different powers, and they all have different ideas of where it came from and how it originated and what it means they need to do. But everyone agrees that there is a higher being. So why are there so many different religions? Why can't we all just say, all right, there's one higher being? Why do we have to have different religions? It's because people have different beliefs about the how, what, when, where, why, and who of that higher being. That's the whole point. And that's why there are so many different religions, because the beliefs are different. It's not about the logic. And again, this is just an objective point that I'm making here. This is not a condemnation of anybody's religion. I got to throw these things in there because you won't believe some of the responses that I get from people when I bring things up on this show, that people just take little things that I say out of context and question me on them as if they didn't hear everything else that I said in the context of the point. But anyway, that's a different story for a different day, and that story will be told. But anyway, let's move on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to stand up to the woke mob. Number 2, stand on your beliefs. Now, I just explained to you that the woke people have their own set of beliefs that are not based in logic. And so if you come at them with logic, they ain't hearing it. I mean, they're hearing it, but they're not listening. You got to stand on your beliefs. And in order for you to stand on your beliefs when you're talking to someone who isn't really listening to you, but they're hearing you, you got to have some fucking balls. Again, episode 1796. Notice I've referenced that 3 times already. You must choose to not allow the woke bullies, because they become bullies if you capitulate to them. All right, they're not bullies if you stand up to them. All right, they're bullies when you fall down to them, when you lay down in front of them. If you allow the bullies to beat you into submission, all right, then your beliefs don't really matter, because you're not willing to stand on them. And this isn't really about whoever's coming at you, the woke mob. It's really about you. Because when you learn to stand up to one irrational bully in any aspect of your life, this has nothing to do, doesn't have to be about wokeness. Any aspect of your life, you learn to stand up to a bully or a person who's trying to get you to do what they want you to do, even though what they're asking you to do is not like for the greater good, is not that you have to do it, is not that you're breaking any rule. Just like the flight attendant on his flight asking me to put the shade down to, I guess, for the quote unquote greater good of the people sleeping on the plane, even though we've been on the flight for 5 hours and nobody has said a word about the window being open. When you learn to stand up to one person, even on a small thing, it becomes exponentially easier for you to stand up to the next person. This is just how life works. And very soon, let me tell you what happens. The irrational bullies, they can read the energy coming off of you, and maybe some of them will even see the way that you dealt with the first person. They won't even come for you. You know what they'll do instead? What do bullies do? Bullies go after easy targets. Bullies go after people who they think they can get to capitulate. Bullies don't come at people who will defend themselves. Bullies don't come at people who will fight back. Bullies don't try to steal lunch money from someone who is willing to fight. Even if they think they can beat them in a fight, why get in a fight when you could take money from somebody who's not even going to fight? It's not even worth it. Bullies go after people, they go after easy victories. And the woke mob These people become bullies when they join a mob. They can be the nicest person on their own, but they join a mob, people all of a sudden become lions. They go after people who are going to move out of the way, who will just give up whatever they have and capitulate to them and bend the knee to the mob. So when you learn to not bend the knee to one person, it'll be much easier to stand up to the next person, and pretty soon you won't have to stand up to anything because nobody's going to bother you. Because bullies go after easy targets. And usually the easiest targets are people who have no balls. So again, episode 1796. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to stand up to the woke mob. Now let me give you a few tactical things. When you are dealing with a person who is coming at you, let's say you are armed with logic, factual information. I mean, you kind of know what you're talking about, and you're dealing with a person who you can tell that they're going more off of rhetoric and emotion, and it's not about logic to them. No matter what you say that logically makes sense, or no matter what they say, and you point out the illogic in what they're saying and point out the bullshit in what they're saying, they're still not hearing you. Understand, when you're dealing with this type of individual, communicate slowly, clearly, and calmly. In other words, if you are dealing with a kid who's screaming and crying in the middle of the grocery store because you won't get them some candy, you don't start screaming and crying. You don't start crying and screaming at the kid in order to get them to calm down. No, you stay calm, you stay poised, you stay relaxed, and you communicate with the child that way, because that way you control the situation. You get them to come to where you are. You don't go to where they are. Breathe. Keep breathing deeply. Don't allow yourself to get anxious and out of control. Because when you start thinking faster, or not thinking faster, but speaking faster, breathing more shallow, what it leads to is anxiety. It leads to you losing your control. It leads to you losing your poise. And understand that in any situation in life, no matter what it is, it could be a basketball game, a conversation, a fight, an argument between people, whatever. The person who controls the pace controls the exchange. You watch a basketball game, you got a team that likes to go up and down, fast break, shooting threes, and another team that likes to play half court and slow it down. Whichever pace that game is played at, that's usually the team that's going to win. So if the game goes fast, the fast three-point shooting team is probably going to win. And if the game goes slow, the half court slow down team, they're probably going to win. Why? Because they're playing their game and making the other team adjust to them. When you get the other side to adjust to you rather than you adjusting to them, you usually win. So pace yourself when you're dealing with the woke mob. This could be in an individual exchange conversation. This could be over a long haul, long-term communication situation. But you got to pace yourself. Don't allow anyone to get you off balance. Just because they're off balance doesn't mean you need to become off balance. You must remain calm when you're dealing with woke individuals, because again, they are going off of emotion. Look at them like you look at a baby who's screaming and crying and they're on a plane or something like that. You don't start screaming and crying to get the baby to stop. That's not going to work. All right, you have to stay where you are and bring the baby to where you're at. All right, you got to look at these woke people like babies. Point number 4. Today's topic, once again, is how to stand up to the woke mob. Anytime you're dealing with a group, that group could be 2 people or 200 people, and they are, again, in this mob mentality, and everything's going off more of emotion and logic and facts and thinking, you got to handle the ringleader. In any situation in life, once the ringleader is taken care of, all the pussies who are following the ringleader will fall back in short order. This is pretty much how it works. You strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. As I explained to you at the top of this episode, the thing about mobs is 99% of the participants in a mob are only doing it because they're in a mob. In other words, they would not do it if they were by themselves. They wouldn't have the same beliefs. They wouldn't have the same energy. They wouldn't keep that same energy, like we like to say. They wouldn't be doing any of that by themselves. They wouldn't be doing any of it if they were the one in the front of the line. They're doing it because they are shielded by the energy of the group. The mob energy gives people the surface level confidence to become surface level aggressive. But you get one layer beneath that surface of aggression, you realize who you're really dealing with is a sheep. They only get the energy from the shepherd. That confidence is sourced from the ringleader. That's the person in front. When you strike the shepherd, the sheep will scatter. This is a fundamental law of power. There's actually a chapter on this. I believe it's chapter 42 of my favorite book called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Now, in order for you to deal with the shepherd, now the shepherd is a person who actually has some real confidence. The shepherd is a person who has some real energy. They're the type of person who would actually still have the same energy even if they were by themselves. So for you to stand up to that individual, you got to have the same energy. You got to have some balls. You got some balls to stand up to a shepherd. The shepherds are not unbeatable. All right, anybody who breathes or bleeds can be beaten. And I don't mean physically beaten, but it could mean physically beaten. It means they can be stood up to, and you can get them to stand down. The same way they can get you to stand down, you can do the same thing to them. But you gotta have the heart to do it. So next time you have a mob coming against you, what you need to identify is who's the person controlling this mob? Who's the person in charge? Who's the ringleader here that everybody else is following? You handle them, everybody else will go running away that fast. So you don't have to beat up 20 people or stand up to 20 people. You only gotta handle one. And the other 19, they'll go away. You won't even know what happened to them. They'll disappear. All that being said, let's recap today's class, which is how to stand up to the woke mob. And in life, depending on your stance, depending on how vocal you are, depending on who you are, where you are, what you're doing, and how much you're willing to express your ideas, you may come against this woke mob. I'm not sure the woke mob is going away anytime soon. So you need to be armed with this information, even if you don't need to use it. As Teddy Roosevelt said, walk softly and carry a big stick. As long as people know you have the stick, most of the time you won't need to use it. Jordan Peterson also talked about that in his book, 12 Rules for Life. If you didn't read that one, his first book, not the next one, not the new one that's out. I didn't even read that one yet. Go read that one. Point number one, understand that capitulating to a mob will not earn you peace, honor, nor respect. You bend the knee to a mob, they will not leave you alone. They will not like you, and they damn sure won't respect you. They're actually going to go in the opposite direction because they just bullied you into doing what they want you to do. They feel like now they're justified for coming at you with the bullshit because you basically gave an agreement to the bullshit by apologizing. And a lot of what wokeness is, the BLM movement, if you want to call it that, even though it isn't going anywhere, general victimhood, these are not about logic, they're not about facts, and they're not based in critical thinking. All right, this is all about emotion. It's about their belief in the story that they have told themselves. So understand that you're not going to beat them just with logic. You can have your logic, but you're not going to beat them with logic. You got to understand where they're coming from so that you can beat them at their own game. Point number two, stand on your beliefs. Have some balls. Again, see the episode where I told you about having balls. It's right down below in the show notes. If you have not listened to that episode, listen to it twice. Choose to not allow woke bullies to beat you into submission. This is not about them, it's about you. When you learn to stand up to one bully, it'll be much easier to stand up to the next bully. You stand up to two, eventually no bullies will bother you because they realize that it won't be an easy victory, and that's what bullies are after. Easy victories against people who will not fight back. If you're not that person, they won't even come around you. Point number three, some tactical stuff. When you're in person, communicate slowly, clearly, and calmly. Breathe deep. Do not allow anxiety and a lack of poise, a lack of control to overtake you, which is what happens when you allow the energy of the bully to infect you. You infect them. All right, don't let them control your energy. You control their energy. Person who controls the pace in any situation in life, they control the exchange and they control the relationship. Pace yourself and do not allow anyone to let you get off balance or get you off balance. Number four, handle the ringleader and the sheep will fall back in short order. 99% of participants in mobs are only doing it because they're in a mob. There's one person who has the energy, they would do it even if they weren't in a mob, that's the ringleader. When you strike the shepherd, the sheep will scatter. Read the 48 Laws of Power if you haven't yet. Send me a text. Tell me the best thing you got from today's masterclass. What are you going to do different, think different, feel different based on what you heard? My number, 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all day.